Hi everyone, thanks for being with me. I did a post earlier today in relation to Sky News's attitude towards Albo. And I want to focus on the fact that right at this particular point in time, Albo, the focus for Sky News on the negativity which they see as being expressed by Albanese and the government is extremely profound. In fact, what we find is that it is a thread that runs through most of what you see on Sky News today. So I have a clip of my favourite presenter, Peter Incredibly, who is going to talk about issues that she sees with Albanese as well. Just following along on the Sky News thread, that all things are bad when it comes to Albo. And I want to remind everybody that, or just at least talk a little bit about the fact that things in this country are not that bad. I've got a clip I'm going to play later on in another podcast, which talks about what's happening in Australia in terms of our economy, because there's a report that came out today that looks pretty good. So I'm going to focus on that later. But Peter Incredible is talking about the issues that she has with Albo, and a lot of it is basically about his diminishing influence. Now, the question I'm often raising is, is Australia influential in the first place? Is there anything that Albo can do to improve our influence or our lack thereof? So we're going to just watch a little bit of Peter Credlin, and I'm doing that so you don't have to. How fortunate are you? You can enjoy watching Peter Incredible talk about the things that matter to her, Sky News and their audience. So please remember to subscribe to my channel, to ring the bell for further notifications. Let me know what you think. I really am interested in what you think about some of the things that I post here as well. And, feel free to offer criticism, because I know some of you do. And that's fair enough as well. Okay, but here we go. Here's Peter giving her take on where Albo sits at the moment, and I will stop it for commentary as we go through it.
I've got to have something to say, I think, about our Prime Minister, who's becoming more and more diminished as the day goes on and world events swirl around him, and he's left looking like he's trying to lasso a column of smoke. Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong keep trying to tell us that Australia is not central to these events.
We're not a central player.
We aren't a central player in this contract.
I would like someone at this point to tell me how we are central. Unless something is happening in the Pacific, unless something distinctly affects us, compromises us in some way, in what way are the issues in the Middle East something that we could become embedded in? I've been criticising Albo and Penny Wong. I'm very disappointed actually in both of them for their attitudes towards Gaza and the fact that they haven't stood up for the Gazan people as they should. And later on you'll find Credlin refers to, and I'll talk about this when she does, but she talks about the number of people that we've allowed to move to Australia from Gaza compared to other countries. And it's an interesting take, I think, because for some reason Credlin does not understand that just being human is a quality worth celebrating.
Conflict.
This was unilateral action taken by the United States.
I can't be clearer than this was unilateral action taken by the United States.
Not central, he says, despite the fact that our largest military ally is, and many Australians too are currently stuck in the region. Now, it is bizarre, isn't it, that when it relates to Israel, this isn't our sphere of influence. The Middle East isn't anywhere or somewhere that Australia gets involved in. Yet if that's the case, explain to me why the government took 3,000 people out of Gaza when no other Muslim neighbour in the region took anyone, and we are still funding UNRWA.
So these are key issues for Peter. So the first one is we took all these people, and you may remember last year there was this conversation about the fact that we had allowed people to come into Australia from Gaza, some 3,000 of them, who were appropriately vetted by ASIO, incidentally. But for Peter, this sticks in her groin. She just does not like this notion that we allowed these people into the country. In a moment, she shows some statistics just to demonstrate how many we had compared to other countries. And Awa is the other issue. So they were disappointed that the Labor Party supported the providing of food and supplies to the refugees and to people in Gaza who are being affected by the horrendous behaviour of the IDF. And I think it's important to understand that these are two issues in particular that Peter finds is aggrieved about.
The UK, it took just 168. The United States, just 17. We took in that 3,000 with barely a security check. Now, it was our region back then, if you listen to Penny Wong and the Prime Minister, but nothing much to do with us now, says Labor. And today, when the Prime Minister was interviewed by my colleague Kieran Gill,
I think we need to be a little bit clearer too about what she's saying about our region. So she's now suggesting that the conversation that Albanese and Peter Credlin had in their press conferences stated that this wasn't about our region. The fact that we chose a humanitarian perspective in terms of the people getting out, we haven't embedded ourselves in Gaza, such as the United States has and the UK and other countries. There is some argument that we have supported them to some extent, but we haven't embedded ourselves. We haven't embedded ourselves in the Middle East in the same way. But nevertheless, the fact that we've been able to develop a humanitarian approach to providing some sort of immigration process for those people in Gaza is significant, and is something I think that we as Australians should be relatively proud of. But no, not this woman.
but he squirmed yet again over the issue of his own on-again, off-again meeting with Donald Trump, as the Prime Minister confirmed he would stay away from this week's NATO meeting in The Hague.
Should you have gone to NATO, given he wants to meet with the Indo-Pacific allies?
They're not there, Kieran. The President of Korea is not there. The Prime Minister of Japan is not there. In terms of the IP4, 3 of the 4 leaders aren't there. That was a part of the decision-making process that we made. NATO is about NATO.
Now, some will make this out to be all about Donald Trump, that the Trump meeting wasn't confirmed, so Albanese couldn't afford to go there and was looking like he'd been stood up a second time. But much more significant is the fact that Albanese couldn't sit around the table at NATO and face the recriminations for having the lowest defence spending in the room.
Okay, so now we move on to 2 other issues for Credlin, which is the fact that Albo's not been able to get, and this is another theme that we notice with Sky, is that Albo has not been able to receive a meeting with Trump. Well, you know, Trump might have other things on his plate, you know, apart from swearing as he's walking towards the helicopter in front of the White House about what's happening in Israel and having a go at them, and all the other issues that seem to be confronting Trump. I don't know, if we looked at a ladder, where would Australia sit in terms of priorities on that ladder? I think we'd be right down the bloody bottom. There's no way in the world. But it is Albo's fault, obviously, that he hasn't been able to do the impossible, and that was to get a meeting with them as well. And his attendance at the NATO conference, why in the hell would Albo need to go? Miles has gone. Why does Albo need to go? And in fact, why would, and I've said this many times before on this podcast, is why is it that that Albo would need to attend a meeting with Trump when it is likely that Trump would snub him? We've had so many meetings in the White House in particular where Trump's acted so badly around the guests and prime ministers and presidents of other countries that he's lampooned them. Why is it that we would allow that to happen? We shouldn't. And Albo's done the right thing. Don't go. Don't be a party to this circus. Don't be a party to this reality TV show called Donald Trump. Avoid it. That is the best thing that they could do. Let me know again what you think about this in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel. Remember to ring the bell for further notifications. Make some comments. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.